Vasily Blohkin is remembered in history today as one of the most deadliest, if not the most prolific executioner in history. During the Second World War, he was responsible for the executions of thousands of people, with their blood directly on his hands. He was considered the chief executioner of the NKVD, Joseph Stalin's secret police. It was during the conflict that he carried out as many killings as he could against the Polish people during a massacre at Katyn. But his crimes and brutal antics went on before the Second World War broke out. He was trusted by Stalin to be one of the men who would carry out severe action against any dissent he faced. He was a man who was incredibly brutal yet efficient at carrying out the will of Stalin, and his crimes were endless. But what is the story of the disgusting crimes of Stalin's executioner? To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Vasily Blohkin became known in the Soviet Union for his skill at carrying out Stalin's wet work or black work, shady missions that usually resulted in assassination, torture, or execution. He gained the trust of Stalin and rose throughout the NKVD, and then he became the head of the Kommandatura branch of the administrative executive department of the secret police. This was a very exclusive part of the NKVD, which was used specifically by Stalin for illegal actions or activities, and Blohkin would be the one at the heart of this. Blohkin then was considered the senior executioner that Stalin relied on, and his official title was a commandant of the internal prison at the Lubyanka. This meant he could carry out executions without any questions asked. Mass executions were overseen by Blohkin's group, and he was the one who personally pulled the trigger in many high-profile executions. It was he who executed the old Bolsheviks following the Moscow trials, and also he was the one who killed the NKVD chiefs Yenrik Yagoda and Nikolai Yesov, who themselves were responsible for Stalin's purges. But one of his biggest crimes was carried out during the Second World War, and Blohkin was taken to the heart of one of the worst war crimes carried out in Poland. The Katyn Massacre saw around 22,000 Polish military officers and prisoners of war, with many coming from the intellectual sector, being executed. It was Lavrenti Beria's NKVD who carried out the killings, and Stalin ordered to execute all captive members of the Polish officer corps. But in this massacre many officers, majors, colonels and even 2 generals were slaughtered. Also refugees, professors, physicians and lawyers, and even teachers were slaughtered in the massacre. Blohkin was one of the main executioners, and when he arrived in Poland, with a team of around 30 NKVD men from Moscow, including drivers and prison guards, he set himself up inside of a cellar in a soundproof room. This cellar had a sloping floor to allow blood to drain out of it. Blohkin then adorned his special uniform, which was a leather cap and a long leather apron, and elbow-length gloves. He set by him on the table next to him his briefcase, which had his own Volta PPK pistols. He said he would only use his own tools and his own guns for his jobs. One by one the Polish prisoners were brought into Blohkin's cellar, and during this their identity was confirmed. The men were brought into the execution chamber where he waited, and it was said that the men held the prisoner's arms and Blohkin shot him in the base of the skull. That's all. Blohkin was known for being fast and efficient in his executions, and he killed a man every 3 minutes during shifts of 10-hour nights. The executions were always done at night, so the cover of darkness would allow the NKVD drivers to dispose of the bodies in the mass graves more discreetly. Blohkin came up with a quota of 300 executions at least a night, and it was he who came up with the quick, efficient killing. It was strange that he preferred to use German weapons rather than Soviet pistols, as he believed they were more reliable. The Volta had lower recoil than the standard issue Tokarev pistol, which made it easier for him to kill large amounts of people each night. Also, it made him able to deny his involvement in the crimes in the future if the bodies were examined and the true weapon was discovered, as it could be traced back to a German weapon. The Katyn Massacre continued night after night, with 25 trenches being dug, and each night the trenches were filled with bodies and they were then covered over. Blohkin provided vodka for his men so they could drink through any trauma, and Joseph Stalin even rewarded him for his skill and organisation in the effective carrying out of special tasks. Ultimately, during the Katyn Massacre, Blohkin shot 7,000 people in 28 days, and with this he is regarded as the most organised mass murderer in history, taking the lives of hundreds himself with his own hands each night. After the executions, the bodies were carried out through an opposite door, and placed into a waiting truck. One by one the killings took place, and then they were then placed into the mass graves, which were later discovered. The Germans then broadcasted the news of the crimes to the world. They claimed that 3,000 Polish officers were piled in 12 layers, and then Germans brought in the Red Cross committees to analyse what happened. They were focused on proving that the Soviets were behind the massacre, and they wanted to use the massacre as a way of discrediting the Soviet Union, and for showing them for being brutal war criminals. But the Soviets denied responsibility to begin with, and they even hosted a show trial against German POWs to blame them for Katyn. However, Vasily Blohkin, following the massacre, remained in his post. He remained a trusted part of Stalin's special detachment until he was forced to retire following Stalin's death in March 1953. But following the removal of another ally, Lavrenti Beria, Blokhin's rank was stripped from under him under Khrushchev's de-Stalinisation campaign. To cope with the killings and the horror he had inflicted over the decades, Blokhin was known to have been an alcoholic, but he died 2 years after Stalin on the 3rd of February 1955 at the age of 60. It's believed he either may have taken his own life or died from a heart attack. But Vasily Blohkin is remembered in history for being the chief executioner of the NKVD, who took the lives of thousands of people, including 2 of his own bosses. He was a war criminal who ruthlessly carried out Stalin's wishes, and he did not care for the people whose lives he took. He saw it as a job that needed doing, and he's gone down in the history books as being the most prolific executioner in world history. His crimes in the Soviet Union and also against the Polish people during World War II was shocking and truly terrifying. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.